Hello, hello. Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought the microphone was out of battery. It was giving me some strange notification, I guess. I have to say though, I'm very happy with these new microphones. I'm very, very happy. Did I talk about them? They're called Rode. This is not a promotion. They're called Rode. I guess the text is flipped. Uh, I guess the text is flipped. Yes, but they're very good. I'm really happy with them. Ooh, okay. Hey Jay, hello sir. How are you doing? Okay, all right. And oh, all right. So let me close a couple windows here on my end because I'm getting uh, yeah. Okay. All right. So let me close a bunch of things here. Email. We don't want email popping up during the thing, right? And what do we want here? I want some notes about what are we going to do today. And what are we going to do today? That's a very good question. Coffee tastes weird today. I don't know what I've done. Okay. All right. Are we ready for this? Okay, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome everyone. This is Jose Luis here. This is Parametric Camp. We record live streams. We do live streams. We record tutorials where we're doing those live streams. We talk about computational design. We do nerdy stuff. We learn how to code. We apply that to creative projects like complex 3D modeling, like art projects, design projects, things that are more in the creative domain. And we do this roughly every week. Actually, we've been pretty consistent and nice about doing this every week for the past 2 months or so. So I'm gonna knock on wood that I don't jinx it. Uh, yeah, we've been okay to doing this every Friday. If you want to learn more, we have social media. We're a bit more active than in other places on Instagram in particular. But if you really want to connect, I suggest you join our Discord server, which is where we have offline conversations throughout the week and where people post code questions and we organize projects, etc., etc. And if you want to know when we go live, we have a Google Calendar in the description of this video, where if you subscribe to that calendar, you will see notifications pop up on your calendar feed whenever we go live. Okay, it's just as simple as that. So how's everyone doing? Tim, how are you doing? Danilo Gigantelli, not sure we've met before, but welcome to the channel. How are you doing? And what are we doing today? So I have not prepared for this today at all, so it might be a little bumpy. But if you remember, we were in the middle of writing together this plugin that we are nicknaming the Brain plugin. And it's basically a plugin for AI, for artificial intelligence and machine learning in Grasshopper. But it's a plugin that is not about machine learning from scratch. It's about pinging, and it's about accessing services that live out there in the wild. Like, for example, OpenAI, IBM Watson, etc., etc., and then retrieving the results of those. So it's more like basically a wrapper around HTTP methods, but it's one that should make things easier for people to access these services. Dusko, it's been a while. Welcome back. And so, what are we doing today? We're writing this plugin here live together We will eventually publish it and make it available for everyone. I actually have been invited to give a Rhino webinar sometime in June, end of June, I think. We should have something kind of ready by then, hopefully. And yes, hopefully we'll have something ready by then. And I also want to make this project a community project. So if you're interested in participating, helping, giving a hand, please come to our Discord server. Where is our Discord server? Our Discord server is right here, right? And we have a tab here called Community Projects when I'm kind of organizing people who have manifested interested in contributing. Actually, Tim is here. I just saw him on the chat today. People who have manifested interest in joining. There's many ways you can give a hand. You can write code. You can review other people's code. You can be more of a manager. You can do graphic design. We need icons. We need a lot of things. We need sample files for people to learn how to use these things. And I really need to get a new green screen because this patch here, okay, it's gone. Yeah, this area here, I broke it the other day and I fixed it really badly. So now it just shines really badly. Trying to figure out how to make the subscriptions for using the APIs, OpenAI, Azure, Google. Yeah. How is proceeding with the implicit geometry project? What do you mean the implicit geometry project? How do you know about that, actually? Hello, Mohammed. How are you doing? Did you just post a comment on the overloads? I think I saw that somewhere on the C# playlist, Mohammed. All right. So what are we doing today, for example? Today, what are we doing today? Today, let me take a look. So today's live stream 121. This is, what is it now, 26. And then we did have this list. We did have this list of things to do. We're basically done with most of the basic get a post request, get a get request, get an environment variable component. And I think we were ready to move on to an OpenAI. OpenAI. I remember you were talking about it a while ago. I know. Well, since you asked, Danilo, I'm actually working with some folks here from the Parametric Camp community on that project. It's going a little slow because we have we have a different project that we're working on right now, but it's something that I really want to take my time to do because I'm actually quite excited about it. But don't worry that as soon as we have something that is prototypable or showable or whatever, you're going to see a stream of recordings and tutorials coming up. So don't worry, and it's going to be super fun. I believe. Nicola, first time in the chat. Welcome. Nice. Nice to have you here. Patrick Rimbold. Yes, it's been a while, right? Good to see you again. If you want to catch up, you can watch the live streams or the videos that we recorded. They are scheduled to be posted over the next few weeks. So I think what we're doing now is the videos the tutorials that we record, we roughly post them on Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. my time. So Eastern US time. So yeah, and I think I have a bunch of videos scheduled. We have a month of videos scheduled, at least 4 weeks of videos scheduled right now. Well, okay, so one thing that I perhaps want to do before we move on is, if you remember, we created a simple post request. We also created a simple get request. And I anticipate, and we did it from scratch. We actually did a blocking version, a non-blocking version, and a synchronous version. So I actually think that it would be an interesting exercise to do the following, to do this, which is, because I anticipate that a lot of the OpenAI components, etc., are basically going to be reusing this technique that we used for posting a request, and then posting a request. Let me say this. What are we? Posting a request, grabbing the information asynchronously, and then outputting it in the components. So in order to not duplicate too much code, what would be interesting to do would be to abstract that post request into a component, a template for Grasshopper components that already incorporates this idea of posting a request and asynchronously updating the downstream objects, and then reusing that template for the rest of the components. And that is going to be interesting because we will need to make decisions about things such as overloads, overrides, virtual methods, abstract methods, and inheritance in general, which is something that we haven't quite seen in the C# playlist, which we should probably change because it's kind of an important topic. We should probably record videos on that at some point. And but we could prototype this here, and that could be interesting. Hey, Arasto, good to see you. Is that what we're doing today? Mesrad, hello. Colin, hello. So many people today. This is great. I think we're gonna try to do that. So what if we prototype this real quick? What if we prototype? So this is what I'm thinking right now. What if what we do today is we prototype a template for Grasshopper components that do asynchronous post requests. And then we rewrite the post request components under that template. I think that would be interesting to do. And since we're gonna have to prototype and then record the video, it might take the full live stream, maybe. But if it doesn't, then maybe we can prototype also a simple OpenAI text completion or whatever, you know? Let's do that. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're going to do this today, which is prototype a Grasshopper component. Yeah, let's do this. Prototype a custom Grasshopper component template for synchronous. We're going to start with synchronous because it's easier. For synchronous post request components. And then we're going to rewrite the the post sync component to use the template. I think that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to do the same for asynchronous. And then do the same for get requests. I could probably, that sounds about right. This is already a full live stream, I think. Yes. And then something we need to do soon is we need to organize a team to get this work done, basically. To get the entire plugin prototype, basically. All right. Okay, so shall we try this? Oh, I was not recording. Oh, okay. All right, it's okay. I'm recording now. That sucks. Well, we lost like 20 minutes. It's okay. I just turned on recording. All right, so let's do this. So where is the project? Tutorial files here, plugin brain here. All right. So we were here. Oh, what are all these windows? Nope. Here. Oh, wow. This got oh wait, what? Oh boy, did I run wind? I'm really making a mess here. Okay, all right. Twitter API. Okay, testing workbench. This is working. All right, great. And what did we have? Brain, utilities, get request, post request synchronous, get request asynchronous. We kind of need to, the namings are horrible. So let me fix that. So, okay, so we got a get request, HTTP get asynchronous. So that's going to be that. And then HTTP post async, and then HTTP post, and then this is going to be blocking. Okay. All right, and this is not going to update because the UI does not refresh when we do hot loading. Okay. All right. So, okie dokie, and we don't have a synchronous get request, correct? We don't have that. Okay, so let's just so here is the thing. So you see how this component that we just created is inheriting from Grasshopper component, right? Grasshopper component is the template for any Grasshopper component that wants to be part of the Grasshopper interface, right? So what we need to do, what I want to do is I want to create a Grasshopper component post, for example, that is a template that allows us to already create components that already have all this logic of containing the request state, containing some method to expire downstream objects, and to yeah, and to handle this whole scenario. So in order to do that, we are going to start with the post request, the blocking one. So this is the blocking one, and the blocking one basically only has solve instance, add runtime message, and it has basically this whole thing, which is the request. So what we could do here is we could copy paste. Why don't we have a post? Okay. So what we're gonna do here is we're going to copy this post function. Well, I'm not gonna do it here anyway because yeah, I'm not gonna do it here because I'm already going to replicate this. Anyway, so okay, so let's prototype this. I will explain as we're prototyping what are we doing, and then we will create the we will create the video. Okay, so for post, okay, and I want to take a look at I want to take a look at something else. So we're going to create a folder. Yes, we're going to create a folder here. I'm going to create a folder and it's going to be called templates. I'm actually going to move request enumeration state to templates. Yes. All right, so I'm going to move this here and then I'm going to create a new item that is going to be a class, okay, that I'm going to call grasshopper underscore component, grasshopper component post. Yes. So this is going to be a class that is just going to be inheriting from grasshopper component. So it's going to take that, but it's going to implement none of this, and it's going to implement basically a function that does a synchronous, not the get one, sorry, not get. So I need the asynchronous component, the post request. So I'm going to take here, I'm going to take asynchronous post. I'm going to add it here, but instead of asynchronous, it's going to be post. And we're going to take the URL, the body, the content type, authorization, and then we're going to rewrite this to be actually, you get the response. Yes, and then we're going to write here response, and then we don't need to do any of this. We don't need to expire. We don't need to expire any of these. Read to end, and that ends our block. And then if we catch the exception, then at the runtime message, something went wrong, and we just return the, okay, so that is a post. And how do I pass on the requirements for implementing abstract members down the line? I forget how to do that, because that's pretty much the only thing we need here is register inputs. We may just have to, I'm going to take a look at the speckle template. How do they do that? And then I wonder if it's just creating basic virtual implementations. Speckle, grasshopper, asynchronous. Oh, nice. So look who's showing up here on the Google search, huh? Okay, this one. Grasshopper component, asynchronous component. So you see, okay, so they flag the component as abstract, and then they ask that you override this with the GUID. So I like that, and then they add all this new stuff that is not part of Grasshopper component, and then they have a constructor that already starts a bunch of things. Display progress is a new one. Before solve instance, that's an optional. That's also optional. This one will be useful for the asynchronous one. And then solve instance, they do an override here. And request cancellation. So what we can do is we can probably say this is going to be a public abstract class. So everything else is pushed down the line. We do have a constructor. We don't really need a constructor. Do we need a constructor? I don't know. So let me rewrite this. Let me create a new one here, new item. And this is going to be a Grasshopper one. And this is going to be HTTP post request from template test. That was a lot. But the gist here is that I would like to, instead of inheriting from Grasshopper component, I'm going to inherit from Grasshopper component asynchronous. No, I need to import using brain.templates. I need to inherit from Grasshopper component post, this one. And then base, there's no base. So probably, yes, I need to add here a base that is going to be this one. And here they do have the name, yes, string name, category, etc., etc. Grasshopper component post. And then this is going to then call the base with whatever name, nickname, description, category, and sub. Okay, so what we're doing then is just passing on the call to the parent object. I will explain all of this when we record the video. Don't worry about this. And then here, now this is going to work. And then here we can have, for example, all of this is going to be this much. And this is going to be here. This is going to be HTTP post from template, test. Okay. Register input parameters, all of these. Register output parameters. This one, and then solve instance is gonna be all of this. Solve instance is gonna be all of this. And then we're going to have here, because we are in a component that is inheriting from Grasshopper component post. And Grasshopper component post already provides a protected post method that does the posting. Then because we are like that here, inside of the child class, we can do string response, and then actually, we shouldn't be doing this asynchronously, of course. Yes, not cool. And this should return a string. Okay, The response is going to be posting this whole stuff. So that's going to be URL, body, content type, authorization token, if out of token, and then timeout. Okay, and then we do DA 0, DA.set data 0, and then response. And if we run this, I think it should work, correct? No, it doesn't. Okay, not all code return, not all. All right, return, blah, blah. And then here, we need to return the response. There you go. And now can we build this? Yes, it works. Oops, so let's give this a try. All right, we are here, correct? Asynchronous get, asynchronous get, asynchronous post, post request, synchronous. So this is the one that we're interested in. So brain is going to be here, and then HTTP post from template. And we're going to draw the full names here. We're going to send. We're going to get a response here. URI completions, what is the body of the request, the content type is going to be blah, 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 authorization is going to be this folk here, and timeout is going to be 10,000, that's fine. We ping, and this is blocked right now, yes, once upon a time, blah, 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 beautiful princess. So it's working. Okay, so that's great. And did we say we were going to start with a get request? Yeah, for post, okay. Okay, so I'm going to, if that's the case, I think we can already record the first chunk of the video. And I wonder if, in order to explain that, I want to do some diagrams. I want to do some diagrams. Do I want to do some diagrams? I think we probably want to do some diagrams. Yeah, let's do it. Why not? Let's just do it the right way, you know? So I need to go get my laptop for drawing. Would you folks give me 1 second so that I grab my laptop, I set it up, and then we can do some sketching? How about that? Okay. Yes, let's do that. I'll be right back. Give me 1 minute. Okay. All right, sorry. Have I ever shown you my laptop? Also, I'm not doing, not trying to do any sponsor video or whatever, but I got this laptop. It's an HP Spectre. This is the main one that I use for working. It's very lightweight. It's quite powerful. It's given me some trouble, some problems. It's not perfect. I'm not entirely happy with it. But it's done a great job so far. And look, and it's like foldable 160. So actually when I do all the sketches, what I do is like I put it like this and in front of me, and I do screen projection from my computer to the laptop. And then once I do that, then because my laptop has touchscreen, I can then in the laptop where is the mouse? Then in the laptop I can do drawing. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to fold it here. Oh, and I need to plug in so that oh boy. Let me, where is my, I should be better prepared for these things, right? Okay. Okay, so, so I'm going to now put this over here, and I get my stylus. Yeah, you're right. It has to. It was so when I was on the market for a laptop, it was the only laptop that combined being lightweight, being a notebook, so that it was portable and very light, and very high specs. It has given me some trouble. I've had to change the keyboard twice manually myself, which is not great, but and sometimes it's not great at connecting to external projectors. But aside from that, it's been a really nice laptop actually. Okay, so now I am oh, what just happened here? Oh, where's everyone? Okay, here. All right, so now I can open Sketchbook and we can switch to Sketchbook and then hello folks. All right. Okay. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? The sketch is going to be, what am I going to do? And you see this thing. Oh my God, I hate it. How are we going to do this? So what do I want to say? I want to say that the typical way we create Grasshopper components is we inherit from this sub-abstract class that requires that we implement a bunch of methods, right? And then whenever we inherit, but it also has a lot of functionality. And then what I want to say is what we need to do now is because we're going to have some functionality that is going to be used across all of our components. What we're going to do is we're going to create like a middle layer of sorts. MSI GS or a Zephyrus series are lightweight and powerful. Can you post links to that? Because I'm in the search right now. I would like to get a new laptop. So if you can post to, that would be great. Thank you. Anyway, so the sketch is going to be something like this. So let's say that we have a Grasshopper component. Yes, so we have a Grasshopper component, and this is an abstract class. All right, and this is an abstract class because it provides already. What does it provide? It provides implementations for things such as, for example, things that we already know, like for example, add runtime message, for example, add runtime message, this dot message we have seen already, and all these things, but it also requires it has placeholders, if you will, for other things that we need to implement ourselves. Like for example, register. Should I just type this? Maybe it's easier. Yeah. Okay, let's try that actually. So for example, here. Oh. I think I blocked the thing. Let me disconnect here, and then let me connect to the screen again. Okay. All right, so where are we? Here. Okay, and then here, and then brushes. So where was I? Okay, I'm just gonna get rid of this, and I'm gonna create a new one, and that's gonna be a type layer, and that's going to be what? Add runtime message, runtime message. The type is going to be 12. Type is going to be 12, for example. Text is going to be blue, for example. Add runtime message this dot message. And what other things do we get out of? What other things, for example, in Grasshopper component? If we go to Grasshopper component, what things are typical that we use? Circle parameter, just parameters in general. For example, parameters, and I'm here, okay. So, so how can I move this? No. Why? Okay, all right, there you go. And can I edit this? Rasterize, edit the text layer, exactly. And then, so, okay. And then, so I want to create now a new one that is going to be red. And here, I want to say register input parameters, register out parameters, correct? Solve instance, and what else? Icon, component, UID, etc. And this one is going to be a new layer. So we're going to turn this on, etc., etc. And then once we have this, Aces. So I love gaming laptops, but it has to be small and lightweight. No more than, I'm gonna say 1 kilogram, 1.2 kilograms, and 13 inches. I don't want 15 inches. That's too much. Because I need to carry this a lot, you know, and I have a big desktop here in my office. So if I need power, I come home, but if this has to be portable. So, all right, so then I'm going to create a new layer, and in this layer, we create component 1, component 2, component 3, and etc., etc. Okay? So this is what we do. However, what I would like to do now is I would like to turn this off. Where is the mouse? I would like to turn this off and say, you know what? But what I would like to do is I would like to create something in the middle here that is another abstract class. So that's going to be, actually, can we do this a little? Yeah, because we're going to run out of space. I want to create another abstract class. That is going to be Grasshopper component post. Okay. And what this class is going to do is that it's basically going to add functionality. So it's going to have or can I make this more generic? Instead of post, I'm going to add custom here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some text here that says, for example, here, additional custom functionality. So we're going to keep that there. It's going to add but then it's also still going to require implementing virtual abstract methods. And we're going to, and then once we have that, and then we can do after that, we can do custom 1, custom 2, custom 3, and we can still also keep just using this to create component 1, component 2 if you want. Okay, just as we used to. I think this might be a good way of explaining what are we going to do. Okay, yes. So I'm going to turn everything off and I'm going to start recording the video. Okay, folks, are we ready for this? how can I? All right, there you go. Okay, are we ready for this? Okay. Yes. All right. Could be called Grasshopper component HTTP. Exactly. We're probably going to call it Grasshopper component post and Grasshopper component get. But I will say that because I want to explain this generically. And then while I'm telling this story in the video, we will say, like, for example, post and whatever, right? Or get requests. Okay, so let's start recording the video. And I'm going to remember I need to record an intro. Okay. All right, so it's over there. Okay, so let's get started. This one is going to be complicated because it's a bit more abstract than usual. All right. Before we start writing any code, I want to do as we typically do, which is take a little bit of time and think about what are we doing and why are we doing it, okay? So what I said is what I would like to do is create some kind of general template for all components that are going to be doing post or get or whatever HTTP request, right? And the idea is that because post requests, gets requests, they actually take like quite some time, quite some code. And as you have seen in previous videos, they will require like this very esoteric, like kind of way of writing the Grasshopper component, because we know that in our plugin, we're going to be writing a lot of components that are going to be using this functionality of synchronous or asynchronous requests. What we want to do is we want to avoid having to copy paste like several times the exact same block of code, which is handling all the post and all the get requests. And we want to create basically a template for us that will make it easier and more streamlined to create general components that use this functionality, right? And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to follow a very similar method to the way Grasshopper itself gives us a template to create Grasshopper components. So if you remember, anytime you create any Grasshopper component, what you're basically doing is you're going to Grasshopper and you're going to Visual Studio and you're saying, can you start a Grasshopper component? We're going to start over again. Over again. Yeah, right, Richard? Yeah, right. uh, so actually, I want to illustrate that with Visual Studio. Grasshopper component. Okay. Well, so let me actually, because I want to show that. I want to show that. So I'm going to copy this into a note here on the side so that I don't lose it. Yes, and then I'm going to remove all of this. So I'm going to remove this here. I'm going to remove it, get request, asynchronous request, get request. This is the post request, asynchronous. This is the post request component and the component decompile. All right. And then what I would like to do here, I'm going to delete this. Okay. All right. Jay, did you say Mac? We don't say the M word here. No M word, no P word. No, 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 no. Oh, wait, I need to catch up with the laptop conversation. I would consider this is a good laptop. Lightweight, cheapful, select 2. Victor, so true. Jay, Richard, just playing different abstract and virtual class. Oh, Colin, that's a very good one. I don't want to do that here, but maybe we should just record uh, in the C# playlist, like talk about virtual. Can we? Okay, can we add this to the list? To do record some videos on inheritance and polymorphism for the learning C# playlist. And this will include parent, children classes, virtual versus abstract methods, etc. But in a nutshell, Colin, abstract methods are those that are mandatory to be implemented by children classes. So if you create a children class, you cannot avoid having to implement those methods, but virtual methods are optional to override. So virtual methods do have a base implementation, but in children classes, if you want, you can override that implementation with your own, or you can just use the one that is available. Interfaces, very good. I'm going to write that down here as well. Interfaces, yeah, that would be great too. Abstract classes. Okay, all of that, yes. I know, Victor. That's why I have the HP, because it's like literally 1.2 kilograms and it's very powerful. That's why I don't like Lenovo as a brand. No. Nothing against mass, but I've never recommended an Apple product. Yes, Victor. Very good. Yes. Mouse computers, strong and light HANO, international services. Yeah, all right. Okay, so let's go back to the drawing board. Yeah, and record the video. Okay, so what was I saying? I have to start over again. Before we start writing any code, I would like to do like we typically do, which is take a little bit of time and distance to think about what we're doing conceptually and plan perhaps what we're about to do, right? So if you remember, I said in the introduction that what we're going to do is we're basically going to create a template of reusable code that we can use for all the components that are going to be doing post request to online API services. And if, as you have seen in the previous videos, creating a post request synchronously, specifically in that method that was expiring solutions, etc., it requires quite a lot of code. So what I would like to do is, because we know that we're going to be implementing a lot of components that use the exact same post methods and post functionality and a synchronous double update, whatever, what I would like to do is, instead of having to copy paste a lot of code and maintaining all that code for, I don't know, 15 different components, what I would like to do is I would like to create one template that we can use that incorporates all that functionality, the posting, the delayed expirations, etc., so that I can create components that use that template instead of the standard template that comes with Grasshopper components. Because if you remember, whenever we create a Grasshopper component in Visual Studio, we do something like this. We go here, we say add new item, and then we choose empty Grasshopper components, my component, whatever. And what you can see is that this component is inheriting from Grasshopper component, which is an abstract class. And an abstract class means that it's a class that contains a lot of methods and a lot of functionality, but that needs to be inherited in order to be used, right? And the idea is that Grasshopper component already incorporates like all this functionality and everything that you need in order to have a component show up on the Grasshopper canvas and be used by the Grasshopper engine. The way that works is that in coding terms, in C# terms, the Grasshopper component is an abstract class. An abstract class is one that already incorporates a lot of functionality. It has stuff that you can use already. These are typically called the regular methods or the virtual methods or the properties, etc., etc. I'm highlighting them here in blue. But it also has abstract methods. And abstract methods are those that the class is telling you, as a Grasshopper component class, I'm asking you to implement your particular version of these functions. And that's why when we start these classes, we know that we have to implement register inputs, output parameters, solve instance, because it's mandatory from the Grasshopper component template. So this is the stuff that we need to implement. And out of that, we can just create all the different Grasshopper components that we want by just inheriting from that class, I'm not pronouncing this well, inheriting from that class and making sure that in each one of the components that we implement, we make sure that we add our custom implementations for all these abstract properties, okay? So this is the regular way. However, if we know that we have some functionality that we're going to be using over and over again, instead of implementing that in every single component that we create over and over again, copying and pasting, that's not healthy and it's not maintainable, it's not good practice. So the better practice would be to say, well, you know what? From the general abstract class Grasshopper component, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a subclass that inherits from everything in the parent, so in Grasshopper component, but in my abstract class, which is specific for some kind of use that I want to do. For example, in our case, we're probably going to call this Grasshopper component post, because what we're going to do is we can say, we're going to create an abstract class that inherits from a parent. And in that abstract class, we're going to have we're going to add additional custom functionality that is going to be shared by all components. So in this case, for example, in our case, it will probably be something of the kind having a post request, doing all the cycle of expiration, etc., etc. And then from our abstract class, we can still also ask whoever implements this that you still are required to implement the abstract methods that are coming from the parent. We can do that as well, all right? And then once we do that, what we can do is we can abstract and we can inherit and create custom versions of this enhanced template that we are creating that already incorporates, for example, all the post functions, expiration, etc., etc. And at the same time, because we're not really modifying the original, we can also still create versions of the original Grasshopper component without the additional functionality. We have now two templates. It's just that the new template, in a way, it's using the base template as the base itself. Okay? This may have been a little too abstract, but this in a nutshell is one of the ways you can use inheritance and polymorphism in C# when implementing more complex projects where you know that you're going to be reusing a lot of code between certain parts of your project, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you an example of how can we create a template for post requests that we can reuse for any component that we want to create that uses synchronous post request. And then after that, we will do the same for asynchronous post requests. And very likely we will do that also for GET requests, so that for the sake of completeness, we have templates for all the possible cases that we want to address with our plugin. Let's take a look at how that looks like code-wise. All right. Okay, so, oh boy. All right. Okay. All right. So how are we going to do this? Let me save this because it's kind of nice to sketch actually. Let me save the sketch. All right. So, hey, Richard, you did like that, huh? It's an abstractive explanation here. All right. Let me push some changes here. Minor updates. Okay, and let's push this. All right. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Post request. All of this, all of this. And where's the response? Here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to create an abstract class. It's not going to be a Grasshopper component. It's going to be a simple class. And then we're going to copy the post method. Mm-hmm. Am I going to copy? I'm going to copy and paste from post request here. And from this one here. Yes, all right. Okay, let's do this. If you remember back the project, so we had a folder here with the components that we had already prototyped. And I created a new folder here called templates where I'm going to drop things that are not exactly Grasshopper components, but that are useful to the other Grasshopper components that I'm going to be developing. So what are we going to do? The first thing I would like to do is I would like to implement a template for synchronous post requests. So if you remember, the prototype that we did here at post request component was basically a component that was very normal. It took all the inputs, and then here it has all this bunch of code, which is what does the post request. This is what I would like to avoid copy pasting across multiple instances. So what we did in the asynchronous version is that we actually created a function called asynchronous post with a bunch of inputs that returns an asynchronous task, right? So I would like to do something similar. So I would like to create a template that incorporates a post function and that incorporates this function in a way that is reusable by all the children components. So let's see how we would do that. The first thing that I need to do is I need to create a class that inherits from the Grasshopper component. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to templates, I'm going to add a new item, but I'm not going to add an empty Grasshopper component. What I'm going to add is a simple class, and I'm going to call this Grasshopper component, right? And then underscore post synchronous, all right? And this is going to be just a simple class. I'm going to dock it here on the side so that we can see things side by side, right? And then what I'm going to do is, first of all, this has to inherit, as per our diagram, from the Grasshopper component class. The way I do that is by coming here and saying, and using the colon, and then saying this class must inherit from Grasshopper underscore component. Okay? Beautiful. The next thing, I'm going to make this public, and I'm going to make it abstract, just to make sure that no one can actually create a Grasshopper post sync like this. What they have to do is we have to inherit from this class. And then the next thing that I would like to do is I would like to create whatever is necessary as additional functionality. So in my case, what I want to do is I want to create some kind of function similar to this one, where that I can use to do synchronous post requests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go full screen here so that you can see better. And I'm going to copy and paste the asynchronous post from the previous request. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this and I'm going to say this is now post. And then this, instead of void, is going to return a string, which is going to be the return of this request. I'm going to remove all the task stuff because we don't need that anymore, because this is not going to be asynchronous. And I'm going to remove anything that was part of this esoteric expire solution kind of method that we were using. So for example, I'm going to remove here, I'm going to create, this is going to be a variable called response. I'm going to not deal with current states, not should expire, not the threads or whatever, but instead, if the response is correct, I'm just going to return this response. All right. And if something goes wrong, instead of doing all of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer some kind of error like we did here. So for example, something went wrong with the request. So I'm going to remove all of this and I'm going to return here an empty string if something goes wrong. All right. Beautiful. So now I have a protected method. Protected means that it can only be used by children of this class. And then another thing that will be very useful is to create a constructor. And to create a constructor, because if you remember, when we use Grasshopper components, there's always a constructor that takes some information and passes it over to the parent class. So what I would like to do here is I would like to say, you know what, let me go to Grasshopper component, let me find the constructor. Actually, I'm not going to do it this way, sorry. So let me go here and say, I'm going to copy this. Where am I? I'm going to copy the constructor and I'm going to say, whoever creates Grasshopper components like this needs to provide a name, needs to provide a nickname, needs to provide a description, needs to provide a category, and needs to provide a subcategory. Subcategory, all right? And then whoever does that, what this component is going to do is going to say, you know what? I'm not going to do anything with this. The only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pass all this information up using this base call to the parent Grasshopper component. So I'm going to say, this is going to go up, nickname, description, category, and subcategory. Whoop, subcategory. All right. Okay, beautiful. And then after this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this component here. Remember the Grasshopper post request component. And now the beautiful thing is that instead of inheriting from Grasshopper component, I'm going to inherit from Grasshopper component post sync, so that I get this additional bonus function as part of the package. So let me rewrite this Grasshopper underscore component, but you can see that the post async is not showing up. That is because we're not incorporating, because we created this in templates. This is because this is in a different namespace. So I need to go here and say using brain.templates. And now that we have that, this grasshopper, grasshopper underscore component post async. All right, beautiful. So we create with the constructor, we pass the names that we want upwards, correct? And then we do, and then what we're going to do here is, remember all this stuff, all this, we don't need this anymore because since we are in a template that already contains, as you can see here, a post function, what we can do is we can come here and say, I'm going to create a variable called response, and the response is going to be the result of using the post function with a URL, and I have the URL here from the inputs, the body, the content type, the authorization token, and the timeout. All right? And then I'm going to output that. What I've managed to do with this is that, let's see if this works. So I'm going to go now to post request synchronous. So if I run this code, you can see that this component, the HTTP post request, is the same as we used to have, but internally is now using the new templates. But if I turn this on, you can see that it takes a couple seconds, still blocking, but it does gives me a response. Right, fantastic. So that what that means is that this is working and that the Grasshopper HTTP post request component is now using the template that I created to automate all possible synchronous post components that I may want to develop in the future. Okay? Beautiful! Hooray! Whew, that was quite a lot. Now, let's take a look at how could we do the exact same thing, but for the asynchronous version, which is arguably the one that we will definitely implement more often, and the one that has the most stuff that we will want to reuse and recycle. Let's take a look at that. All right. Could you just make... Did you just wake up before you started this? Why are you saying that, Richard? Am I doing so poorly? Oh my God. uh, if creating post async posting is redundant according to C, it's my hair. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I'll make sure to properly comb my hair before showing up on YouTube, you know? Posting is redundant according to C# naming standards. Post should be sufficient. It should be. It's just that I do not want to use the same template for both synchronous and asynchronous because they will have different properties and different methods. We could, but it would be kind of an overhead because since for asynchronous, we're going to have to implement all of this, you know, and we're going to have to override solve instance and our downstream objects. Because we're going to have to override this, it's going to work slightly different. So that's why we want to have two different templates, in my opinion. Post and post async instead of classes in the same post class? Yes, but no. So we could have both functions, post and post asynchronous, but because the asynchronous version will have these properties and will have the expand downstream objects overwritten, I do not want to do that. Yes, I want to have separate versions of that. Yeah. Okay. Can I take 1 minute to go and properly address my hair as per Richard's requests? And take a bio break at the same time? I'll be right back. Give me 1 minute and we're going to do this. All right. How is this looking now, Richard? Is it up to your standards? All right. Um, I'm going to edit Grasshopper component post sync template. All right. Yeah, right. I guess you don't have those problems, huh? You always wake up fantastic, ready for action, huh? All right, great. So, what are we? Where are we? Where are we? Yes. Oh, nope, no, 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 no. Please dock here. Yes. All right. So let's go. What are we going to do now? We're going to talk post async, uh, post asynchronous, and we're going to do post asynchronous. I'm going to discuss that what we want to implement is this plus this part here. How could we do this? Because that is kind of common to, yeah. Expire, post asynchronous, current state. Yeah, and we're gonna have to do a lot of copying and pasting from here anyway. Output, I guess. Well, yeah, this is going to be a lot of copy and pasting, and this is going to be a lot of copy and pasting, but I don't have a good idea on how to override strategically the solve instance method. So perhaps I can come up with an idea better in the future. Okay. Okay, so I may just address that as part of the video. Maybe the HTTP posting code should be in its own class and create a separate H that use that class. Well, that's what we're trying essentially. It's just that I don't know how to make solve instance that already incorporates this and somehow this. Maybe that's something that we could, as part of the community, someone could prototype. It's an interesting thing to do, like some kind of a higher level description of solve instance that already incorporates all this junk code, but gives people the opportunity to manipulate the response. But at the same time, we have a way of collecting the inputs, doing the validity checks, updating all of this, and then doing the request asynchronously. Yeah, Mehra, there's always like a 10-second delay between what I say and what you guys see. It's part of how YouTube works. It's not lag on your end. Okay, let's just do this then. Let's start by thinking, what is it that we want to reuse from the asynchronous post request component? So any component that will do an asynchronous post request is going to need these three properties. So a global response property in the class, a flag of whether if it should expire or not, and some kind of description of the state of the request, right? So that will be something that we will need to reuse and implement as part of the class. Then the solve instant method does have a lot of code that will be shared across different instances. So we will need to address that. And then we will have both the asynchronous post request, which we will probably copy and paste as it is, right? And then the idea that we will override the expired downstream objects, because this needs to have a specific way of being of behaving that is particular to asynchronous post request components. So then let's try to work with that. So I'm going to create a new class again, and the class is going to be called, this is going to be Grasshopper component, and this one is going to be post asynchronous. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then as we did before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this as a public abstract class that is going to inherit from Grasshopper component. Where is Grasshopper component? The Grasshopper component is right here. Okay. I'm going to, just like we did with the post, I'm going to add a constructor that basically takes whatever names and nicknames and blah, 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 and passes them upwards one level to the Grasshopper component using the base method. All right. Then the easy part, I'm going to copy the post async part of the component. So that was here. So I'm going to go all the way down here, private asynchronous, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to copy this, correct. And then I'm going to do this. All right. And then I'm going to make sure that this is flag protected so that it can be used by children. And I'm just going to rename this post async because I kind of like this a little better. All right. So this is not working right now. Actually, I still have Rhino going on. Anyway, and this is not working because as you can see, let me post this here. As you can see, response, current state, and should expire, which are properties that we need as part of the component, are not available in this implementation. So what we need to do is I need to go here and say this are going to be part of the template that I'm going to be using. All right. And instead of private, I need to make sure that I flag them as protected so that it can be used by children. Okay. Now request state is, I am getting an error in this is less accessible than the field, blah, blah, blah components. Let me take a look at what is going on here. Yes, the problem is that I flagged request state as protected, but it turns out that the enumerator itself is less accessible than protected. So I'm just going to make this public, and then this should fix the problem. Okay, fantastic. And then what else do we need to do? We need to bring in, if you remember, we need to bring in the override for the expired downstream objects. So I'm going to copy and paste this, and I'm going to bring it over here. And now we have this overwritten. Okay. And that should do the trick. So if I now go back to the Grasshopper component asynchronous, I should be able to use this Grasshopper component dot asynchronous. I probably need to bring in using brain.templates, and I probably need to use the Grasshopper component post asynchronous. All right. When I do this, this is going to be redundant because it's already part of the abstract class, right? I'm going to delete this. Oh no, I mean the get component. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not here. Not here. So, Grasshopper, oh boy, I think I broke something here. Oh, what did I break? Yes. Okay, and then post asynchronous. This one is request asynchronous component. Exactly. So this one, I'm going to be using brain.templates. All right. And then here, this is going to be Grasshopper component. And so Grasshopper component, post asynchronous. All right. So this is now redundant. I'm going to get rid of it. And then all the way down here, I'm going to get rid of this override. I don't need it anymore. It's part of the base component. This asynchronous post, I've already made a copy of that with a different name. And this is called now post asynchronous. All right. Fantastic. And everything else should probably remain the same. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to, oh, I'm using this twice. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Okay, see if it works. Let's take a look. Ta-na-na-na-na-na. Ta-na-na-na-na. Sound effects. Okay, and it's showing up on my other screen. So if you remember, HTTP post request asynchronous is the one that we just overdid, and it's using now the underline template. So I'm going to do true, requesting, and then it takes some time, complete. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess who lived in blah, blah, blah. Okay? Okay, so it looks like it works, which is great and kind of surprising that it works at the first time. Now, one thing that I would like to highlight is you're probably thinking, well, turns out that the solve instance does have a lot of redundant code. So I'm probably going to have to be copy pasting this should expire, handling the request states, etc., etc. And then this whole like, if this is not working, expire the solution. If this doesn't work, expire the solution. So is there any way we could reuse this code and not have to copy paste the entire thing? And you're right. That is something that with a little bit more thinking and a little bit more design, maybe we can find a leaner way of having solve instance do some of these things automatically for us. But for the time being, I want to focus on getting the job done and the simpler version of this asynchronous component. But perhaps what I'm going to do is I'm going to let folks here in the community together with me think and prototype a way of how we could make this leaner. And perhaps what I can do is I can record another video once we find a cleaner version that doesn't require us to copy paste all this code that is redundant inside of solve instance. Okay, so I'm going to leave that as an exercise, homework for us, for the community, etc., etc. And before we finish this video, I want to show you how we could do this the same for get synchronous and asynchronous. Let's take a look at that. Okay. All right. So let's just do. All right. I'm going to add this. We're going to push. And then I am basically going to, and I'm going to do this offline from the video. I mean, this is not going to be part of the video. And I'm going to do, for example, here a grasshopper component underscore get sync. All right. And this is going to basically be a copy of the post sync. So let's just do this side by side. So I'm going to public abstract, and this is going to inherit from Grasshopper component, and then this is going to be get sync, and then can we do a get? So we have here get, async get. Interesting. Interesting. So Richard, so creating one interface for both sync and async doesn't work well, but creating one interface for both all synchronous requests and all asynchronous requests actually maybe works out. So for example, let's say that so what is this, the post request, the get request, this is the get request, right? So a string post, and what if I do now string get, and then these are the parameters, and then we try all this stuff here. And we return, we don't have any of this. So var response and return response. And then here we add some kind of error. Add runtime error. Something went wrong, and return nothing. Post synchronous. So we can have get and post synchronous on the same template, and we can have get and post asynchronous on the same template. And that gives us, yes, and then get synchronous. Let me get rid of this. Yep, get rid of this. So post asynchronous, get. And then for asynchronous, post asynchronous, post asynchronous, what I can just do is I can do get asynchronous, and protected get async. Okay. To move all this, we could out of the components into a single class and instantiate that class in the, we could, it's just that the get async and the post async kind of require the response in the current state. Yeah, we're gonna keep it a little simpler, yes, for the moment, for the time being, yeah. Post request get asynchronous. Okay. So that can go now. That can go. Get asynchronous. And get component, get grasshopper component. And then get request asynchronous. And then we can also do a get request component. that is not asynchronous. New item. Oh, nope, sorry. Delete, add new item. This is going to be HTTP get request component. So this one, we're going to copy get request. All right. Get request asynchronous and post request HTTP get get creates generic HTTP get request, which is synchronous. All right, and then we're going to enter here, 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 and here. And for the get requests, we're going to copy and paste this entire thing. For the output, we're also going to copy the entire output. For solve instance, okay, what is the for solve instance? Okay, that one is going to be trickier. So your HTTP code is in a single an instance of the class in the sync async templates. Yeah, but I don't know how that could work, because for post async, for asynchronous requests, we do require all of this, and that's the part that I don't want to mix with others, with synchronous and asynchronous. Register inputs, outputs. So the get request. Okay, so I'm going to do. So this is probably what we want for the get request synchronous. If data is not active, then just do this. Otherwise, if we don't get request authorization, blah blah blah, validity checks. If URL is not available, at runtime, blah blah blah. We don't need the, and then we get this, and this is get, because this is inheriting from Grasshopper components, and we need to use here using brain templates, Grasshopper components, synchronous, and then get, and we don't need a body or a content type. We don't need any of that. And does this work? Great question. Does this work? So we have here get request asynchronous, get request synchronous. So what would be HTTP get? All right. So this, and block, and yes. All right. Okay. So it works. Yoo-hoo! So I think we're going to save this. What's the GitHub for this? It's in the parametric camp repo. It's the brain plugin. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, and then I'm just going to put it here for the sake of explaining this in the video. Get request, asynchronous, post request, asynchronous, post request, asynchronous, get request, and get request. All right, great. Okay, so let me explain this then. So I have offline during the live stream implemented this new HTTP GET request that it's synchronous. So what you can see is that if I run the code, I have on the template file, on the workbench file that I use for testing things, I've already implemented something that broke. And oh, wait, let's redo this, redoing this. What have I done? What broke? Oh boy. This one? Is this what's breaking things? Is this what's breaking things? Oh boy. Yeah, that's what was breaking things. Okay, weird. Post async, get, post. Okay. Post asynchronous, get request asynchronous. Async. Okay, so request async, post sync. Okay, so I guess we need this for the message thing. Okay, so let's then go over. Yes, okay. So starting over again. So I have implemented this offline during my live stream. So if you want to see how I did this, a card to the live stream might be popping up in the corner. All right. And what I've done is I have implemented a HTTP GET request that is synchronous. So if you look at the code now, this is the new component. And then if I turn this on, you can see that it did block for a little bit, right? And it gives me a request for this random website. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that instead of creating a new template for Grasshopper component, get asynchronous, Grasshopper request, post get synchronous, etc., what I found is that basically in the synchronous template, we did have a function that was a post request. But what I could do is, like, for no reason could I not just add the same get request function on the same template. And what was interesting as well is that in the case of getting, In the asynchronous template, I had all these placeholder properties and all the code for handling an asynchronous post request and the expiration of the downstream object. But all of that code is very, very similar also for an asynchronous GET request. So if I go down here and you see that I implemented GET asynchronous, which is also using these properties, and it also requires the expiration of downstream objects. So what's interesting is that as I was developing this, I kind of realized that instead of creating one template for post asynchronous, another template for get asynchronous, another template for post synchronous, etc., what I could basically do is I could create one template for all synchronous requests of any type, and the same template for all asynchronous requests of any type. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically refactor this. I just pressed Ctrl R twice. And what this does is that it changes the name on this class and anything that uses this class. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rename this to a more generic HTTP asynchronous request that includes both functions for post asynchronous and functions for get asynchronous, the same functionality. And here I'm going to also refactor this, change all the names in my code base to something that is using HTTP synchronous. So this template is now generic for any HTTP synchronous request, and the file names do not get automatically refactored. So I'm going to rename the file as well, right? And then with this, I can use this template for any synchronous request, and I can use now this other template for any asynchronous request, no matter if they are get or post, which makes the code cleaner, more reusable, etc., etc. It's like a leaner and better, right? And then what I've done is I've already taken all the components and I have replaced them with their templated versions that will be very useful for me moving forward in the project once we start systematically implementing many components that use HTTP, post, get, synchronous, asynchronous, etc., etc. All right, so we have a really neat code base now to start cranking out components. Okay, beautiful. I think with that, that's what I wanted to leave it today as a video for optimizing and writing a bit of a cleaner code base for our plugin. All right, fantastic. If you liked this video and you thought it was interesting for you, maybe show some gratitude, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and all those things. Or if you don't, that's also fine. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Thank you. I think this static reference, Victor, is for the components that use messages. So I think, where is this? I think, no, where is this? Visual element tab. Yeah, I think this is used by the message system in Grasshopper, but I'm not entirely sure at this point now. Where is it used? Anyway, I need to record the introduction. So what are we going to do for introduction? I think the introduction could be the diagram. The diagram, I kind of like the diagram. Okay, yeah. All right. So what am I going to say? I'm going to say, hi, in this video I'm going to teach you how to create an abstract class that is going to incorporate additional functionality and that we can use for creating additional components. And that is because we're going to be using a lot of post requests in our code. So we just don't want to be copying and pasting the same code over and over again. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a superclass that is going to incorporate a functionality. And then for any post request or get request, we're going to inherit from that class. Okay, I'm going to explain how that works and why, etc., etc. Okay, let's give this a try. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in this playlist developing a plugin for artificial intelligence and machine learning in Grasshopper. So what I would like to teach you in this video is a technique to make the development of the starting over again. All right. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our playlist developing the Brain plugin for machine learning and Grasshopper, etc., etc. So what I would like to do in this video is I would like to show you a technique using inheritance in C# so that we can make the development of our plugin in Grasshopper a bit more starting over again. A bit more what? Cleaner, elegant, and with less redundant code. And with less redundant code, yes. Okay, let's do this. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in this series developing the Brain plugin for machine learning in Grasshopper. So what I would like to teach you in this video is a technique that uses inheritance in C# in order to make the development of our plugin more streamlined, elegant, and especially using less redundant code. Because if you remember, when we were developing in the previous video, when we were developing a component for asynchronous post request, we had to do this whole thing of adding properties, creating a function that does the asynchronous post request, and then handling how that works in the cycle of Grasshopper. But if we're going to be developing a lot of components that use asynchronous post request, which is what we're going to be doing, then that would involve a lot of copy pasting lots of large chunks of code across the same chunk of code across components. So in order to avoid that redundancy and the possibility of failing, etc., what we're going to do is we're going to basically create a superclass of Grasshopper component, a template that is going to incorporate all of that functionality. And then whenever we want to implement an actual component that uses this asynchronous post request functionality, instead of inheriting from the Grasshopper component plain template, we're going to inherit from the template that we're going to develop ourselves. And that's going to be a template that we're going to develop using inheritance, where we're going to take the base class and we're going to add custom functionality so that we can reuse that functionality over and over again in many different instances of our custom components. Okay, I'm going to show you what this means, why we do that inheritance, and examples of how to implement that in our plugin. Let's take a deeper look at all of this mess here. Beautiful. Oh, I think that's very much. Oh, I think I'm very ready with this. Yeah, that was a lot. Okay. Where are we? If you turn on track active item in Solution Explorer in options, it's a lot easier to see which file is open without hovering in Vision. Why are you saying that, Tim? As a response to what problem? Okay. Templates for HTTP components. Okay. I'm going to, it's just easier to follow. Easier to follow what? All right, I'm interested in that. So let me consolidate it. Get plus post. All right. So under options, what options? Options, track active item. In Solution Explorer, okay. Oh, so you mean this highlighting here? Was I in Solution Explorer? Was I not getting that before? Was that not a thing before? Really? Track active item? Oh no, it wasn't. Really? That's kind of dumb. That is not something by default. Well, you're right. That's a very important, of course. Yeah. You're right. Thanks a lot, Tim. I didn't know about that. I assumed that was the, it just sounds like obvious that that's what it should do, you know? All right, folks, I think it's time. I'm gonna go. I have work to do today. And I have a busy week next week. We will be streaming on Friday. Yes, we will be streaming on Friday. I'm looking at my notes here. But yeah, I don't know what we're gonna be talking. Yes, we will be streaming on Friday. Okay, let's leave it there. All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure. See you next week or in 2 weeks. Next week. See you next week on Friday. Okay, and we will continue with the development of the plugin. All right. Bye bye.